by Ashley Wiggin for Humanities 115 World Mythology. So the two approaches that I'm going to focus on in this presentation are the comparative approach and the cultural or the anthropological approach. So in the comparative approach, we are going to compare and contrast different mythological tales in order to kind of see what their meaning is, what people were thinking of at the time, and how they're culturally similar and different. And the cultural approach is going to focus on one myth at a time in order to get contextual meanings for the civilizations and societies that we're focusing on. In the comparative analysis, we've got the Greek mythology and Near East creation stories of Genesis, Enuma Elish, and Theogony, and Works and Days by Hesiod. So ancient myths tend to share similar characteristics, which we can draw upon to delineate natural human characteristics and questions that we asked at the time. I broke this down into 5 questions, or the story characteristics, to see what was similar and what was different. And the first one is, what is the origin or the introduction of evil in the story? With Genesis, I believe that it was present in the beginning, although it's not strictly spoken about. So God knows everything, then that means he knew that the serpent was in the garden, and also he knew that the serpent would try to influence Eve. So I think that that was the inherent evil in the story, although it doesn't portray itself clearly. It doesn't come straight out at you. In Enuma Elish, it was present from the beginning because there were these opposing forces, and destruction was part of the creation of the world and the universe. And similar in Theogony and Works and Days, similar to Pandora's jar, similar to the fruit in Genesis, Pandora's jar held the knowledge which caused mischief, but the gods were also, violent and had negative characteristics about them, so that was already present. Before the creation with Genesis, there was nothing, perhaps just the matter, but God created everything. In Enuma Elish, Apsu and Tiamat were primordial gods in the form of swirling waters. And in Theogony, lines 116 to 138 explains that there was only chaos. So there was matter, but there was no order to the matter of the universe. And that's similar to both Genesis and Enuma Elish, and that there was, chaotic matter before there was creation. So there was something that had to be structured by God or the gods. These differences also highlight cultural aspects and help us move along when we're doing a cultural analysis and seeing those things that are valued in each of the societies. So what is the time frame of creation? In Genesis, it's clearly laid out. It was 6 days. Really, he created the world, and then in 6 days created the rest of the aspects, humanity and light and water and animals and everything else. And then the 7th day he rested in the garden once everything was finished. In Enuma Elish, Tablet 1, line 13 states that the gods prolonged their days and they multiplied their years. So before the creation of the world, there were still multiple generations coming into the universe as all these gods. So it was obviously a very long process. Theogony didn't have a very linear timeline, moves back and forth between the stories of the gods, and Works and Days, the Ages of Man, also depicts generations of creation. So I do believe that both of those myths illustrate that it did indeed take a very long time to create the world rather than the 6 days in Genesis. Who made the humans and why? So God created the humans in Genesis, and they were to be the caretakers of the earth, and specifically the garden, which he chooses to rest in order to bless him and honor him, really. In Enuma Elish, Marduk created the humans from the blood of Kingu, who was the god that sullied Tiamat, essentially. And they were charged with creating the Temple of Babylon to honor and aid the gods and to house Marduk. So there was also that temple myth that we discussed in class about how each of the gods that created in each of the mythologies ended up, resting in that place. So Theogony in Works and Days, we see Zeus referred to as the creator of gods and man, but other Greek mythology credits Prometheus as the creator. So it's not very specific as to why the humans were created, but I think it alludes to the fact that they were, I know Prometheus and his brother Epimetheus, were charged with giving all the characteristics to the animals and such, and there wasn't much left for the humans. So I think that the humans were just kind of there to be in the image of the gods. In Greek mythology, it's rich with cultural context. They were passionate people who made several contributions to the world in a wide array of disciplines, especially philosophy, mathematics, and just great thinkers in general. As the mythology notes, the gods and goddesses were human-like in form and action. So this statue of Zeus represents, along with many other statues, represents the idea of the human form, the figure, or it is, as it might be even just the god form. Enuma Elish highlights the warrior culture of the ancient region, but also the nurturing role of the mother and the woman. In Tablet 1, line 28, it illustrates that Tiamat spares her children even though she's upset with them. And once again, whenever Marduk kills her to create the world, it illustrates that life-giving nature